What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm Nathan Marz, as always, joined by Brandon Eckel. We got a nice, fun episode today. It's draft week. We've been waiting a long time for this, and we're going to do a full first-round mock draft, basically rotating picks, and we don't know who the other person's picking. Like, this isn't pre-planned. We have, okay, you're going to take him, I'll take him after. This is all live, so we're going to do kind of like a live mini mock draft, first round only, and just flip-flop. So Brandon's going to have the first pick, I'm going to have the second, he's going to have the third, etc. And we're just going to go and make picks based on – it's important to know this is based on who we would take or, who we think they should take, not based on what we actually think will happen. So we have our own, rankings, our own big boards, and we're kind of going to go more based on that and who we like at certain positions and for certain teams. Another side note, I'm up north right now, outside. I just got on the Wi-Fi at the library. So if there's noise in the background, anything like that, it's because I'm in a public space because this is the best we can do. But we got to do what you got to do to do the podcast. It's Mock Draft Monday. So, All right, let's get into it. Brandon's got the first pick. The Orlando Magic are on the clock. And who are you taking? I know we've had discussions about who we think is the best player and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see who you got here.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have this guy number one on my big board, but contrary to what we've heard, I'm taking Chet Holmgren number one.
What? Oh my, that is okay. I'm shocked.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, just I don't know. To me, I feel like they're just such a somewhat long-term development where they are they have the patience to wait for Chet. They have Mo Bamba, who maybe they move. I think he's a restricted free agent. I like Chet a lot just because of his defensive versatility, spread the floor. Yeah.
All right. I mean, yeah, I'm not at all me and you had many conversations about this. I'm not a Chet believer. I'm not necessarily a Chet hater because the only thing I don't like about him is just his size. And I keep coming back to that. I love what he brings on the court. I definitely see the potential. I see why people love him. I could see why he would go, potentially go number one. Like a guy that's that tall that can do the things he can do. It's very rare to find, and the upside is absolutely there. But I just worry about the bust potential. And the one thing I will say, and we'll talk about this more. We're going to do a live stream on draft night. We'll talk about all the picks as they're coming through and everything. We'll have more to talk about each guy. I do think his floor is a little bit higher than people think, because he can do so much, even though he's not big, he's long, so he can block shots still, even if he's getting back down. He can still finish around guys, even if he can't finish through them. I think his floor is okay, but I do worry about if he cannot get bigger and he's just skinny and that's just how he is. It's going to be tough for him to be really good and be worthy of a top pick. But all right, you're going Chet. My pick is now, so the Thunder on the clock at number 2, and that's my pick. I'm taking Paolo Banchero out of Duke, and I think he's probably the most polished player in this class. I think a lot of people agree with that. That's not a hot take. Very smooth player, very smooth offensively. He can get a jumper. He can go finish down low. I think he's an underrated defender and an underrated passer, not just a scorer that kind of, I see, and watching him, he does look like a Jabari Parker type, where he's strong, he's big, he's athletic, and he can score. But I think he's better defensively than Jabari, and I think he does more for an offense in terms of his passing ability. That's why I'm still I didn't love Jabari coming out, and part of that was I didn't really like Duke at the time, so I had a little bit of a bias there. But I think Paolo is a much more polished, better prospect, and Jabari was still good, even if the injuries didn't happen, he was still going to be a good player. But I'm going with Paolo, number 2. And now you are on the clock at number 3.
Number 3, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Well, I shouldn't say obvious because there's been more talks, but I'm going Jabari Smith here because I think to me, the 3 I think are locked in as you can kind of make a case for any of them, arguably best player-wise. I really like how Jabari can space the floor and knock down threes. He's better than, the other 2 in that aspect, but has to work on his game outside of that, even though I like his defense intensity and just his kind of just the way he plays the game, plays tough. So,
all right. So I'm on the clock at number 4 with the Kings, and I've thought about this. This is kind of where the draft people think really begins. And
Mm-hmm.
again, for those joining, like this is not based on what we think will happen. I think if we're predicting, we probably think Jabari Smith is going number 1. Um, it's more based on what we would do if we had the picks. Those 3 are going to be in the top 3. I think they're kind of the consensus top 3 overall prospects. And this is kind of where the draft begins. This is the first pick that could go multiple ways. Jaden Ivey is probably the best player for most people available on the board. But there are the questions of like him and Fox are kind of similar. Are they, do they work together? Me personally, this guy is number 2 on my big board. And I think he fits well with them because they need some shooting. Keegan Murray out of Iowa. He does a little bit of everything. He doesn't have many big weaknesses, and that's what I like about him. And again, they need some shooting, and I think he'd be a better fit alongside, what they have already there. But he's a really good scorer. He can play defense. He's a versatile defender. He can drive. He can shoot. He can kind of do everything you need. And so I think again, he's my number 2 overall prospect just based on like the weaknesses. There's not much there. I could see his ceiling being a little bit capped. He's not like the craziest athlete or anything. But I think in terms of like a floor and in terms of just getting a really solid NBA player, I think he's a pretty safe bet. And that's why I have him really high. But that's my number 4 pick, and I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, just real quick, I like him a lot, honestly, to the Kings too. I don't know how you feel, but I think he'd fit pretty well next to Sabonis. Both kind of similar size, but Murray more athletic, better outside score. So I think that would be a good pick for them. Detroit at 5. I'm gonna go with Jaden Ivey. Fit is, I've gone back and forth. They've kind of tried that with Killian Hayes. Kind of like a somewhat of a playmaker, but Hayes just hasn't really panned out. If Ivy can shoot, he'll be a really nice 2 next to Cade. So I do like the possibility there, and arguably a top 3, 4 guy. So for him to fall to 5, I think Detroit would be really happy to have him.
Yeah, I really like that fit. And that's the thing is like I look at these and I'm like, okay, like again, Ivy's maybe has a higher ceiling and is probably best player available on most boards, so the Kings might take him. But it's like I just feel like Murray to the Kings, Ivy to the Pistons is just like that works,
Yeah.
The Pistons are probably hoping Ivy falls so they can again pair him with Cade and have that. They need a guard like that who can handle the ball and everything. So those two I think those are the best fits. Now I'm up at number 6 with the Pacers, and I think the Pacers are kind of in a position where they're kind of stuck in the middle. I think they go for a little bit of a swing here, a guy who is a little bit unknown in terms of didn't play in college, but Shaedon Sharpe out of Kentucky, but again did not play in Kentucky. Really, everything people know about him is from his high school tape and his high school highlights. But I don't absolutely love Sharpe. Like he's not. I'm trying to think. I'm going to see where I have him. I have him 8 on my board, so he's up there. He's still a very good prospect. The athleticism is what really people are excited about, and that gives him a lot of upside. I think he's someone who we could look back on. And he could be arguably the best player in this draft with how athletic he is. He can handle the ball. He's really good defensively, and he can shoot. But again, the problems are you worry about. He didn't play in college. You don't really know what you can trust exactly, and so I think though he's definitely a more high ceiling, and that's kind of what the Pacers are probably looking for with this pick. Because right now they're kind of stuck in the middle. I don't think they're not one piece away from winning anything right now. So I think they go for more of a ceiling here with Shaedon Sharpe.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I think it fits well next to Halliburton. Number 7 to Portland. I don't love this pick, but I'm going to have them taking Benedict Mathurin.
Okay.
The only reason I don't love that is I don't know how you feel about him, but I view him kind of more, and maybe this is just because this is what he was at Arizona, but I view him more as like a big guard, like a big point guard. Some people are talking about him more as like a 2 or a 3. So, they have Lillard, they had Anthony Simons. So I don't know. I'm curious what you think about him to Portland.
I'm not sure how much I love the fit. I really do like Matherin. He is up there. I think he's 6th on my overall rankings. And I just love, like, again, he's another guy that can do so much. Like, he's such a good shooter, really good defensive potential. He can attack the paint. He has athleticism. I think he has a high ceiling. In terms of, I mean, I don't know. I could see, again, with his ceiling, I do actually like the pick. I think the Blazers are looking for ceiling. Again, they're another team that they're not one small piece away from like contending and one little hole away. Like, you got to start getting guys around Damian Lillard who can really help you compete for championships. I think Matherin has the potential to be a guy that you pair him with him and they're the next, they're a really good duo and can start to take that franchise to, back into the playoffs, back into competing close for titles. So I actually do like the pick in that sense. I'm up on the clock at number 8 with the Pelicans, who, in my opinion, I think their need is probably shooting. I think to add another shooter, I think they were one of the poor 3-point shooting teams last season. And so I'm going to take AJ Griffin out of Duke, who I really like. He's interesting because he's bigger. He's kind of like, he has a 7-foot wingspan. He has really good strength. He's big, but like he can shoot really well. He can score off the dribble. His offensive game, and just watching him play, he reminds me a little bit of a Jimmy Butler. Like, he can hit mid-ranges and pull-ups. He's a better 3-point shooter than Jimmy, and he's worse of a defender, which, I mean, it's hard to be as good of a defender as Jimmy Butler. He's one of the better ones in the game. But I think offensively, he kind of reminds me of a Jimmy Butler in the way that he can go get a bucket. He's strong. He can even pass for, create for his teammates. So I like this for the Pelicans. I think he's someone who can handle the ball a little bit, but also can just be a spot-up shooter. He was one of the better ones in the class. So, I'm going with AJ Griffin at number 8.
All right, so this is a little tough here because now this is the first time where I kind of had a couple of my guys gone. I'm gonna take a big swing here if I'm the Spurs. I don't know what your reaction to this is going to be. He's been gaining a lot of traction. I think kind of where I'm going. They need a little bit of size. I'm going Usman Dang.
Oh, whoa. Okay. All right.
You might have thought I was taking Johnny Davis there.
That's what I thought was coming.
There's been a lot of talk of him with San Antonio, but I don't see it. They have Lonnie Walker. They have Devin Vassell. They have Josh Primo. I understand drafting talent, but I don't see them taking another 2-guard. They like their Europeans, or they have in the past. I mean, taking more Americans now. I think this would be a really interesting pick, and I think if there's a team that could develop him, it'd probably be the Spurs. So,
yeah, I don't hate it. I'm not a huge fan of Usman, but like you said, I think the Spurs are the type of team that they're good at developing those players, and I think in my mock draft of what I predict will happen, I have the Spurs taking Johnny Davis because I don't know, I could see it with. They have a lot of good players and two-way guys, but I think they do need like more of a pure scorer. And in my eyes, like as much as I don't like Johnny Davis, he is one of the better scorers. Like after those first, guys go off the board and you get to pretty much that point, if it kind of falls like this, in terms of just scoring ability, there's guys that can do a little bit of everything, but like scoring wise, I think Johnny Davis is probably one of the better ones. So I could see them going with him at 9 because they need someone. They have DeJounte Murray as their scorer right now. I think they need another like bucket getter, in my opinion. But
yeah,
I don't mind that pick because again, if Usman pans out, he'll be really nice.
Yeah.
So I'm on the clock. 10th, Washington Wizards, who in my eyes their biggest need is point guard. It kind of always is point guard. I feel like they consistently always need one. And if Matherin was available, I'd take him because he can run the point a little bit. I'm going to go with my next best point guard on the board, which is Ty Washington.
Wow.
And I feel like he's fallen a little bit in these mocks. Like I saw him higher earlier and then he fell down a little bit. I know he's kind of a popular pick to the Knicks because they need a point guard as well. But I'm taking him 10. I personally really like him. He's 13 on my overall board. But yeah,
I like him a lot too.
He's a really good passer, which is probably his best trait, running the point. But he also can hit mid-range pull-ups, hit catch and shoot threes. I think his shot overall is really good, and he has a nice he has good length for defense. He has a 6'9" wingspan. So I think overall, like that just he checks a lot of boxes. I think he's got a pretty good floor. But yeah, I like this pick. I think Ty Ty is gonna be really good.
Okay. Well, I'm curious if you don't think this guy is a point guard, or if you just have him lower than I have him. Because this guy, I mean, if he fell to 11, I think would be a steal for the Knicks. I'm going Dyson Daniels. He struggled first half of the year for the Ignite. Started shooting the ball a lot better. And I just like his playmaking ability, 6'6" guard, lockdown defender, which would fit the Knicks system, especially with Thibodeau as the coach. Play a ton of gritty minutes. So I actually would really like that pick just because I feel like they kind of need a point guard. I don't know if Quickly is necessarily a point guard. Maybe he's undersized too. But either way, I think they could pair those together fine.
Yeah, I do consider Daniels a point guard, or he can play point guard. Like in my rankings, I kind of have him. My positions are guard, forward, wing, big, because I think you can have guards that they're guards. They usually most guys are combo guards. There's wings that can play guard or forward. There's forwards that are more like small forward, power forward. But I think Daniels I have classified as a guard. I do have watched Ty Ty he's one spot ahead of him in my rankings overall.
Yeah.
So I actually do have Ty Ty over him. But I love Dyson Daniels. I still have him up. I think I saw a mock where he went 5th, and that to me is a little bit high. But I still really like him. I think he can. The defense is something you don't get from that versatile elite defense is not something you get out of a lot of players. And to me, I'm not taking him top 5 because I don't trust his shooting enough right now. So I think there's like that risk there of his shot doesn't pan out that I'm not taking him top 5, but I still would consider him back half of the lottery. So I'm on the clock now with the OKC Thunder. So they've now picked up already. I have them taking Paolo in 2nd overall. I think, man, this could go a few ways. I could go with a big. I'm probably going to go with Jeremy. Is it Sohan? I don't even know how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah, Sohans. I like him a lot. I know you do too. We've talked about him.
Yeah, I'm taking him for the Thunder. I think I right away compared him to he's a Ben Simmons that has a shot, like not a fantastic shot, but like a capable shot. And that's a really good player because Simmons is good. He just could never shoot. But the defense is plays Ben Simmons like defense. He's a really good driver and passer and playmaker. And he can shoot threes. Like he's not a terrible 3-point shooter by any means. So I really like him. I have him 7th on my overall board. So definitely like him a lot. And so I'll take him with the Thunder because now they kind of have their backcourt filled. They have you get Paolo, you got some front court there, and I think Sohan can play kind of the wing. So I'll take Sohan there.
Yeah, I think that would be you come out of here at Banchero and Sohan in the lottery. That would be great if you're a Thunder fan. That'd be fun to watch. 13 to the Hornets. I'd have to say they probably need/go with a big man here. Guy that's a little lower on my board than some people have him, but I'm going with Mark Williams.
All right. That's who I would have taken in this position. I was wondering if he'd fall, but that's my next best big.
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty good fit. A shot blocker, can get put back. You got Ball, Rozier, Miles Bridges, all those guys at the guards. So, Bridges is a 4, but I think they probably go with a big here.
All right, go ahead. Oh yeah, so I'm on the clock. Back half of the lottery, or last pick of the lottery. Sorry, Cleveland Cavs, and I think they've got Garland, they've got Jared Allen, they've got Evan Mobley. They kind of need a wing, particularly one that can play both sides of the ball because they're a pretty good defensive team, and so I think they need someone who they can put out there to be able to switch and stuff. I do think there's a few guys you could take here because there's plenty. This class is pretty loaded with wings. I'm gonna take this is someone who I consistently like mock to them, Malachi Branham. Not even like he's not technically a wing, but I think he can play like a wing. I have him more like a forward, but I think he can play both sides. He reminds me a lot of a Chris Middleton, getting to his mid-range game. He can hit spot up threes. He can, again, hit those mid-range pull-ups, has some nice moves in the mid-range, and kind of a bucket-getting type of player, but also has some defensive potential. And so definitely is, I think, a good pick for them. And as I said, I mean, I have him pretty high on my board. And right away when I watched him, if you watch Malachi Branham highlights, he'll remind you of Chris Middleton. So I have him going to the Cavs.
I like that pick, and I'm definitely coming around on Branham. I was just watching highlights last night, actually. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Oladipo, too, in college at least, like how he plays. 15 to Charlotte, taking a guy that I know you don't want to pick. Hornets have to take him here for a two-guard, Johnny Davis. Plays both sides of the ball. He'll bring some defense to Charlotte. Obviously, they take Mark at 13, so they can go kind of with a wing here.
Yeah, and that's as I was saying, like me personally, and I'm trying not to be biased with it. I don't have Johnny Davis higher than Malachi Branham on my board. So, like, in my opinion, the wings that are available, there's plenty of them. Like the Cavs, if he's available, could easily take him. I think, again, Johnny Davis could go as high as like 7. But I don't think that's a bad pick by any means. And I did want you to be the one who drafted him. I didn't want to. I was like, I'm not taking him. So I'm on the clock with the Hawks, number 16. And they obviously, I think their biggest need is defense. They kind of definitely are one of the worst defensive teams, simply, especially in the backcourt and on the perimeter. So I'm very happy that this guy fell to me because he gives you a lot of good perimeter defense. He's a nice, solid role player the Hawks can throw in there with along their other pieces. Ochai Agbaji out of Kansas. I don't think he has the highest ceiling, but his floor is one of, like, again, in this area, I think he's got one of the higher floors in the draft because you know what he's going to do. He's going to hit threes. He's going to play defense. I think he can do a little bit off the dribble as well. But I like just the things he brings, and he's a winning type of player, as we saw last year. They won the championship at Kansas. But I just like him a lot. I think you get him, and I'm very confident he will be a contributor, a solid player, a nice role player in the NBA, and give you what you need. And I think the defense is really good.
Okay, Rockets here at 17. I think I'm going to go with a guy that I like. You like him probably a little more than me, but I've come around on him. Jalen Williams.
All right, this is my guy. This is my guy, especially for the Bucks. But I hope he falls.
Yeah, I watched just from watching those, BYU Gonzaga. We'd always be watching those late night games at the bars, whatever. West Coast games. Saw him play at Santa Clara. I liked him a lot and put up good numbers. But especially after the combine measurements, looked really good. I think this would be a really nice fit. Somebody that brings, that versatility, defense, and a guy that's not going to like demand the ball where you already have Jalen Green, kind of, Kevin Porter in there. So I actually really like this pick for Houston.
Yeah, just real quick, I love him, particularly for the Bucks, and I think I have him top. I honestly think I have him top 10 on my overall rankings. And at the time, he was going back half, like late first round when I was looking at him, and I'm like, what? Like, why is this guy not higher on board? Because you watch him, he's got a 7'2" wingspan. He can score off the dribble. He's amazing hitting spot up threes. His numbers, like shooting last year, were absurd. Mm-hmm. And then, again, obviously with his length and everything, he can be good defensively. He can pass really, really well and like be a ball handler, point guard. Like there's just so much he brings, particularly for the Bucks. Like the Bucks need size on the wing, which he check mark. He's got a 7'2" wingspan. They need shot making. He's a really good shooter, and they need someone who can handle the ball off the bench, and he can do that. So one of those guys that I think checks all the boxes, and to me has a high floor and also a high ceiling. So I love him. But I'm on the clock 18th with the Bulls. And I think they do have a lot of they check a lot of the boxes. They're not all checked very well. Like I don't think they have a ton of they're great at many positions, but I think they check all of them a little bit. I do think the one thing they kind of need is rim protection. Vucevic not great at protecting the rim. Their overall defense not great at protecting the rim. So I'm going to go with a rim protecting big here that they can put behind Vucevic and potentially he could take over later. Jalen Duren, who I don't absolutely love, but I think of the guys available, he's the best rim protecting. And he's not far. I have him 23rd in my list, and this is 18, so it's not like it's a reach or anything. But I have – and he's going very high in some mocks, so this isn't a reach by any means. I think this would be a good pick, some rim protection and a nice backup big out of Memphis.
This is I don't know. It's such a weird pick with Minnesota just because I don't know exactly where they can fit somebody in because they have a lot of different little holes. I think I'm going to go with kind of between two guys. I'm going to go with Tari Eason, who I don't love, but he's a really good defender. He has, pretty good offensive upside. I think more of as a slasher. I don't love his shot. Shot like 35% from three, but it's I don't know, it's not a very good looking shot. So, but a guy that would play really tough, fit that kind of style Pat Bev's trying to get him to play. So yeah.
Yeah, I was actually hoping he'd fall to 20 so the Spurs could take him, but that's a good pick for sure. So I'm on the clock with the Spurs, and they already got in this draft. You took Usman, Usman's more of a project pick a little bit. Like he's got some things to work out. I think a team needs to be more patient. So I'm going to go with someone who is a little bit more polished, a little bit more like a lower ceiling, higher floor player, but can score the ball and defend well. And I'm going to go with E.J. Liddell from Ohio State. And I think the Spurs are going to come into this draft looking for some type of scoring, and I think they'll get one, proven scorer and one that has like scoring upside. So I think overall they'll be pretty happy getting these two guys. And again, a reminder, I didn't even say this earlier, but we're assuming no trades. You can't really predict trades. So we're just assuming none of these picks are traded. Like I don't think the Thunder now have they have two. So before I think they had three. I was going to say I don't think they're going to keep 3 first-round picks and stuff like that. Like there'll be picks that you assume kind of get traded, but we're going to just go based on if they kept all their picks. So.
Okay. Nuggets. I feel like they kind of need to go. I don't know. I feel like they kind of need a backup for Jokic to run that, to run the big position. But I don't like these guys at 21. I know one guy you do like more than me. I don't love this pick, and I know you do not like this guy. But I'm going to go with the long-lost twin of Nikola Jokic and take Nikola Jovic as a project pick. As a project pick behind him. I really don't love that pick, but maybe they feel with his playmaking and his I think he's like 6'10", they can kind of work with him behind Jokic. Something, I don't know.
This would be so funny if he went to the Nuggets. But
and that's almost why I didn't want to do it. Just kind of like I'm really not doing that on purpose, but I feel like maybe you could fit that mold. Obviously, he's a lot skinnier than Jokic, but I don't know. They're another team that's in a weird position where I don't think they need like an unathletic big, another one.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of where do I have Jovic? I have Jovic 38 on my board, which is low, but I do like not that I like the potential, but I do think there's potential there. I take that into consideration. I think I don't like him more in terms of I wouldn't want the Bucks to take him because he's too much of a project and everything. I don't absolutely hate him as a prospect as a whole. Again, I think he's a early second, even maybe back half of the first if you really buy into the hype. I don't mind that. So I don't hate him as a prospect completely. It's just I wouldn't want the Bucks to take him, and I think he's a little bit too much of a project. But moving on, 22nd pick, the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are in a spot where they also have several several holes checked or several boxes checked.
Mm-hmm.
They got Jaren Jackson down low. They got John Morant. They got plenty of role players, guys that can play defense, guys that can shoot. Good young team. I think you go with, man, I don't know. I think you can go with someone who can kind of do it all. Might have a decently high ceiling, but probably has a pretty high floor. And you can, again, they're a team that you could argue you add another contributor in there, you add another nice role player, and they can, they can win a championship potentially. So I think you go for something a little bit safer. And I'm going to go with Dalen Terry out of Arizona. Swiss Army knife who can kind of do it all. Handle the ball. He's a wing, but he can handle the ball. He can pass. He can shoot a little bit. He can defend. So I'm going to go with him. I think he can do a little bit of everything out there and be kind of another missing piece for them, or just a piece to add that you can give you a little bit of everything.
Okay. I would say this. If I'm making this pick for the Sixers, I'm probably going for a guy, more of a point guard, but they need shooting.
I think for me personally, a Sixers best case pick for me, they need 3-and-D guys. I'd probably say and he's not available, but EJ Liddell for me would be the best pick for him.
Yeah.
And he's not a wing, but he's someone who can hit threes. He can play defense, and I think that's more what they need. I know, talking to my brother who's a Sixers fan, he always is like, we need 3-and-D, and I'm like, well.
I mean, there's one guy in here that, he's kind of to me a mystery. I would, as far as I think where he's going to go, just because there's a wide range and a 3-and-D wing, I'm going to have him take Christian Braun.
Okay.
Christian Braun. Sorry, I still always say Braun. I'm used to saying Ryan Braun. Christian Braun. I really liked him at Kansas, and I know we've talked. He kind of reminds me like a Pat, but a lot more explosive and can get to the rim. Really lengthy. So I think this would be a really nice pick, because I think they need shooting more than they need like a point guard, just because they have Maxey. Harden can play there, even though I'm not a Harden guy. So I would like this pick for them.
I like Christian Braun a lot. Someone who, if he's available, I'd love for the Bucks to take. As you said, he's Pat Connaughton to me, and obviously him being white, you are going to compare him to like a white player usually, but he's Pat Connaughton because he's in terms of the athleticism and the shooting. Like, they're both very, very athletic. They can jump, and they shoot really well, like spot up shooting. But to me, Braun is a little bit more skilled in terms of like ball handling, passing, a little bit of shot creation, and like being able to handle the ball in transition, everything. Like, he's a little bit more of a polished Pat Connaughton. So yeah, no matter where he goes, I really like Christian Braun. I think he's got a high floor. So I'm going to clock with the Bucks. And to me right here, this is, besides Jalen Williams, my next favorite prospect for the Bucks, Wendell Moore Jr. out of Duke. He was fantastic. So he was super hyped coming out of high school. Wasn't great his first 2 years at Duke, but was awesome last year, and has become a guy who can really, similar to Jalen Williams. I talked about how Jalen Williams can be, he's long. He's a long wing, but he can handle the ball and be like a backup ball handler from the wing, and be, point wing or whatever, and pass and everything. Wendell Moore can do just that as well. He can defend. Like, he's a very versatile defender. Checks pretty much all the boxes. I think he has some shot creation ability, just like Jalen Williams, that they can score off the dribble. They're not just spot up guys or anything like that. I trust Jalen Williams' shot a little bit more than Wendell Moore's. And I think overall, I just trust Jalen Williams a little bit more than Wendell Moore. That's why I like him a little bit better, because of, Wendell Moore he took time to become a good player in Duke. It kind of was like a tough transition for him. So I think you could see the same thing at the next level, him needing some time to kind of adjust. But I just think he has all the tools to be really, really good. I think he, again, checks the Bucks' 3 boxes of size on the wing, shooting ability, and ball handling as a backup ball handler. So
yeah, he's a guy I like a lot too, honestly, that I've just been looking into more. Just I think he put up like 4 assists a game.
Mhm.
3-point really went up, so you wonder how much that'll even out or if he just has developed into a better shooter. But I would like that pick as a Bucks fan. 25, the Spurs already have two kind of like the wing slash four position. I'm gonna go with Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame. Uh, One and done freshman. Kind of iffy on him, but definitely a guy that should be going first round just because of his potential. He's young. He's like 6'4". So I think this would be a nice pick going behind DeJounte Murray.
For the Rockets at 26, they already have, and again, these are both picks where they are, these teams already had 2 picks. I'm not sure they're going to keep these picks. They might package to trade up or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
either the Spurs or the Rockets. But Rockets already have Jabari Smith and Jalen Williams, both kind of, forwards. I'll go with a guard. I'll go with Jay. I don't like him that much, but I'll go with Jaden Hardy. I think he's low on my board, but
Yeah, same.
I think he's 37 on my board. But I can see the upside there that could make a team, want to take him in the end of the first round. So I'll go with him because he's got the upside, and I think the Rockets are looking for that, where they're just trying to throw darts and see if one hits. And if Hardy can improve his defense a little bit, I think he could be pretty good. But to me, right now, he reminds me of like a shorter Jordan Worrell. Like scoring ability is there and everything. He just shoots a little bit too much. He doesn't play much defense, and he can pass at least a little bit too. So that helps. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Miami. I think they have Duncan Robinson and Hero and Strus, but another guy to space out the floor could help. Playmaking big that can guard multiple positions. I'm gonna go Jake LaRavia, who's been another guy who's trended upwards a lot, and I don't know. It seems like he's probably almost a for sure first round pick at this point. And I kind of like the fit for him. Maybe coming off the bench, him and Bam together, spaces out the floor a little better. So,
All right, and then I'm gonna go. So I have the Golden State Warriors, the NBA champion Golden State Warriors, and another team that kind of has most holes filled. They just kind of need some depth, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna take someone who I think they can afford to take a guy who has a decent floor. I think he can do enough that he'll be productive, but also has a pretty high ceiling. So I'm gonna go with Marjan Baychamp. Is it Baychamp?
I don't know if it's Baychamp or Beauchamp.
Whatever it is. I'm gonna go with him. I think he can play, as a backup wing, and someone who very athletic. He's very long, and can kind of do a little bit of everything. Just not the best shooter right now, but if the shot improves, could be really, really good. And so I think, again, the Warriors kind of have the luxury of, like, they can take their time to improve him as a shooter, and hopefully he could pan out and be really good and be a good depth piece.
Yeah, I just want to say quick, I really like him. I watched him when they played the Herd in Oshkosh this year, and I like the way he plays. He kind of reminds me of like DeRozan because he likes to work in the mid-range, doesn't really have that three-pointer, but got a nice-looking shot, and then just plays really good defense, good rebounder. If we didn't need shooting for the Bucks, I would like him a lot more, but just the non-shooting turns me off.
Yeah, that's the same with me. Like, the lack of a shot, I'm like, I just can't be excited about it.
Yeah. Okay. Grizzlies. I kind of like this pick from Memphis, actually. I'm going to go with Trevor Keels.
That's what I was going to take. Dang it.
I like him. He, a lot of people have said it kind of reminds him of a Lou Dort, like an oversized point guard. They kind of look somewhat alike too. But I think that would be a good piece just to like play tough nose defense, can get to the rim. So nice backup behind Ja.
So 30th pick for the Nuggets.
Final
nothing. What'd you say?
Final pick. This is a big pick.
Final pick. Nuggets of the first round. I'm going to go. This isn't like a flashy pick or anything, but I think he has the tools to be a nice role player, and can hit. I think his 3-pointer will be good enough in the league and his defense will be good enough in the league that he can be kind of a 3-and-D player. Max Christie out of Michigan State. I don't love him. I don't think it's a flashy pick. I don't think he has much of a ceiling, and he does need some time to kind of work things out. The shooting wasn't like the shooting numbers were not great last year, but he has a good looking shot. I think he made a good enough percentage that like he'll be a good shooter in the NBA to put around Jokic, and his defense is probably his best trait right now. So, throw him on the Nuggets team. They can definitely use some defense, and I think that's a pretty decent pick for the Nuggets. So that does it for our first round NBA mock draft. Tomorrow we're going to have another episode out. It's going to be our top 10 players in this draft class. So our big board top 10 in honor of our Tuesday top 10. So we'll have that out tomorrow. And then Thursday is the NBA draft, and we are going to be going live for that on Twitter. So we'll be live streaming pretty much, I'm guessing definitely the whole first round, maybe a little bit into the second round as well. Potentially the whole thing, I don't know. But, obviously we'll be talking a lot about the Bucks pick as it gets closer to 24 and all the picks coming through. We'll have, thoughts, analysis on them. And, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, dude. I love the NBA draft, so I'm excited.
Yeah, same here. I'm excited to go live, give our live just kind of takes, our reaction, whatever. Yeah, me too. Draft might be the most fun time of year, obviously, other than the playoffs for me. So
and I love the NBA draft more than the NFL draft because I know like every player, yes. Or you can at least, if you don't know players, there's not as many you need to like study and see. You can kind of like, I've looked at 60 players, like I can get an idea of pretty much everyone in the class.
Yeah,
and you kind of have a good idea, especially the first round. You kind of know everyone that goes in the first round. You know almost everyone that goes in the second round. So, and just being a college basketball fan throughout the year to see them play in college and then see what teams they go to is always fun. So definitely excited. We'll have that for you guys on Thursday. Happy draft week. And yeah, episode coming out tomorrow as well. So look out for that. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.